What's going on, guys? So we are out at the Brookstone and we are going to undertake a really interesting project. This is one that the unit got a lot of criticism for when I first showed you what was behind these panels. Basically, there are a lot of wires, and as you all know, we recently had solar power installed, a whole system from Go Power. It's really cool. We have two huge batteries in here, a large inverter, the automatic transfer switch, as well as a surge guard, surge protector. That's all kind of behind here. What I am doing today, with the help of my good friend Patrick, we are going to drop all these panels and build kind of a rack system for some of the equipment so it positions it outside of any type of plumbing potential failure. So basically, all the plumbing is up against this wall. Once I remove these panels, you'll be able to see it. And if there's any type of a plumbing issue, even if it's a small drip, there's the potential that it could get into the inverter, into the transfer switch, into the surge guard, into some of these areas that can be vulnerable. So we want to eliminate that risk at least as much as we can. I have some aluminum panels here that I'm going to use to kind of make a shield around some of the racks that we're going to make out of wood today. But the goal here is just to mitigate and reduce the chance that we could have any type of water-related damage to electrical components. If we have a plumbing issue, that's stressful enough by itself. Last thing we want is a plumbing issue making an electrical issue. So we're going to move all that. First, we got to drop these panels and see what's back here. Hang tight. I'll be right back. Okay, so we've unsecured these two panels. We might dig in deeper and take that one off as well, just so we have full access to everything back here. But let me show you what we got going on. So we got the two 250 amp hour Go Power lithium iron phosphate batteries, some crazy big cable. We have the IC3000 inverter. Down there, past it, behind it, you can't really see it real well, is the automatic transfer switch. Hanging up there is the surge guard. And the wire coming in from the back, you can kind of see it wrapped around right there. And it goes up to the top of the surge guard. You can see the wire right there. Then the surge guard goes to the transfer switch to the inverter. And then all the battery solar stuff comes into the inverter from this side. So it's essentially the gateway for everything. And then you see this cable right here coming out, and that is what goes to the breaker panel inside of the sub panel. I guess it would be the main panel in this case, but with RVs, your main panel is kind of your pedestal that you're plugged into for power, and then your RV kind of counts as the sub panel. But this is what we got, and as you can see, all the plumbing back here and the plumbing above here is all directly above and around this equipment, and I don't want that to be the case. So first thing we're going to do is clean up as much of this wiring as possible. It's going to be a lot of cutting and splicing to shorten some of these leads, but hopefully it gets everything out of the way. So that's the first project I'm going to tackle. And then the next project is going to be moving all this stuff where it needs to go. But first, I need to shut off the inverter. Okay, so I'm inside of here. We have everything disconnected, at least from the power. So I have my main power disconnect over there, cut off. Solar's still coming in, but it's only going to the MPPT controller right there. Don't have any power coming from the batteries to the inverter at the moment because we've shut off the main power disconnect. And we are in the process of just trying to cut all the zip ties off of here and find out what wires we can reduce some slack with, because there are a ton of wires in here, and I would love to be able to eliminate some of that extra slack, especially the stuff that's hanging down here near the batteries, before we proceed. Now, some of this is coax. So this is coax, that's coax, these three right here are coax. So there's a lot of coax cable running through here currently, and I'm going to see if I might be able to reposition some of it, maybe move it to behind some of this stuff, because it doesn't really need to be right here. So that's the first step, and again, it's cutting down some of these wires. So basically, you find a lead, you see what it's connected to here, like this. This is a really good example. You can see, so the wire, that much wire is slack, and ideally I could probably just cut this wire out, this little jumper right here out completely, and run this directly up to the LCI panel right here, because that's all that they're doing. It's just spliced in. So yeah, remove this, connect it directly, and I have the slack I need. I just don't have this extra cable that's hanging off, which if this thing starts hopping up and down, it's going to put stress on the splices up here, which I don't want to do. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to find all of these extra connections, extra slack, and reduce as much of it as possible. All right, so with Patrick's help, we were able to kind of move all of this stuff around a little bit. We had to actually disconnect all of this. Do you want to grab the bundle of wires we removed? So we didn't remove way too many, but we definitely, yeah, we got enough jumpers out of the way. These are all probably 25, 26 inch stretches of 12 gauge wire. So we removed a good amount of that. Plus we were able to trim some wire back. I was able to bundle up wire a little bit better. I moved this Unity controller so it shifted down and it took some pressure off of a cable that was kind of pulling across. You might see that in the before picture, but this is about as good as we're going to be able to get it, mainly because there's a huge bundle of wire that comes in from underneath here, and that's pretty much for all the slide mechanisms. That goes down through the frame. There is a huge bundle of wire that goes back here. So you can see all those wires going back here. They all meet in this general area because they either go to the power system down here, or they go to the control system right here, or they come in from various areas of the RV. So this right here, this flashing material you see, that's actually the floor inside of the RV. This is the elevated deck area. So the bathroom is right above this spot right here. Under here is the underbelly underneath the floor, between the floor and the frame. So again, this is where all your main wires that go to the lights, that go to the slides, that go to everything over there, landing gear, all of that stuff, the leveling system. And then everything in here goes inside of the RV to the breaker panel, as well as the fuse panel that kind of, again, controls everything in there. So we removed a pretty good amount of wire. Again, we'll probably have to do a before and after picture here so you're able to see exactly what we've done. You're probably wondering what this is. This is actually a wire conduit, and the reason why I put that here is because underneath it, you see this shutoff valve right here for water, and the wires were kind of up against it. Now, I don't think it probably would have worn through the wires because these wires don't move much, but I just wanted to eliminate that from potentially happening, so I just put that there to act as a bit of a buffer between the wires and that specific valve. So we did what we could. These are all coax cables, and man, you know, part of me and Patrick were talking about just cutting these lines right here and feeding them all to the back side so they're out of the way, but I really don't want to have to cut the plumbing, and they're not necessarily in the way, they just kind of look ugly. And you know, cosmetically we could probably make this look better, but we're never actually going to have anything in this area because you can see the floor actually stops right here. So the next part of this job is going to be to try to reposition as much of this stuff right here, this stuff being the surge guard, the automatic transfer switch, and the IC3000 inverter, to this area right here. And I'm gonna have to reposition both this fuse as well as the bus bar right here. And hopefully we can get this all positioned up and give me this area back and eliminate some of the potential risk for water intrusion into this if there's some type of a water leak. So that's the next thing that we're gonna do, and it shouldn't actually take very long because I'm kind of planning all this out, and I think we should be able to make this happen relatively easily just by framing out a section right here and then elevating this up. So we're gonna evaluate this a little bit more and then see what we decide. Okay, so we have some limitations here. Not so much this wiring, even though we do want to be conscious of the wiring coming from the batteries to the inverters, but the house wiring right here, which actually goes from the inverter to the house, and the wiring coming in from the automatic transfer switch. We actually have plenty of slack on that side. This is the limitation. So this is how we're going to mount it. I've used some construction lumber here to essentially make a little bridge that goes over the gap. And we're going to mount it to the top of that, which allowed us to position it in about 6 inches further, actually even a little further than that, than where it was before. So instead of it being an angle right here, it's now much closer in this way. Now what we're going to do is build onto this and build a wall that goes up on this side. That's going to give us the ability to hang our automatic transfer switch as well as our surge guard. And we're going to use this aluminum paneling as protection against any of the water lines that are in this area. So if anything breaks or leaks, it's going to flow down the back of it or around it, or just not get directly onto any of this equipment. which is kind of the purpose of this entire project that we're doing. So yeah, again, we're just at the point to where we're just about ready to secure the inverter, but before we do any of that, we need to build up and out the back here so we have kind of a fake wall to attach this stuff to. Okay, so we're removing the little top brace right here so we can run the wires through and put the mount in place. We've relocated the fuse to the side of this so it's no longer laying flat, which is nice. The battery monitor is going to be mounted right down here on a block. We're, again, getting that side ready for over here. We're going to build up, and then we're going to have a platform that goes across the top here to house both the, or at least to mount both the automatic transfer switch and the surge guard, surge protection unit on top of. So we might mount this to the side of it actually, but we're gonna have plenty of room now. And once we're done with this, we'll be able to kind of form the aluminum sheeting around to prevent any type of water damage if any of these lines start to leak. That's kind of the goal. It'll clean things up a little bit too. Thank you, sir. So Patrick is handing me the plank that's going to run across the top. So it's going to sit like this. And both the automatic transfer switch and the surge guard are going to be on top of this plank. Again, the whole goal of all this is to get it away from all this, which we've done successfully. Once we have this on, I'll be able to use the aluminum sheeting to kind of create a shield around this in the event there's a water leak, so it's not going to drip directly on top of this. So that's the whole goal behind this. It's going to clean it up a bit. We definitely cleaned up some wiring here a bit. I know it really doesn't look like it unless you look at a before and after picture, but overall, this I think is going to be the best option because it's going to give us the spacing we need to make sure that we have the cooling capacity this is going to need for airflow. Basically, they want 6 inches all the way around, and I gave them a bit more than that. It's going to space it off the deck a little bit with these planks that I put underneath it, and then this is going to be housed on top with the automatic transfer switch, and we'll have a shield that kind of protects everything from getting wet. So far it's coming along. Fun project?
Oh yeah, tons of fun.
Yeah. It's a hot day today, especially in the underbelly of a fifth wheel. All right, so we're going to start mounting stuff and see how it all looks before we get to installing the shielding. Okay, so it's getting a little, well, not getting too dark, but a little bit.
Ish.
We got it in place. Have the surge guard, which basically is the power coming into the RV, going into the automatic transfer switch, which then goes into the Go Power, and the Go Power then takes off to the breaker box. Batteries are all ran coming in. I got my ground, power, everything remounted. I can actually see my lights on my surge guard now, which is really nice. This ain't going anywhere. It is very, very well secured. And we're just gonna get everything put back together and wrap this project up after we put the aluminum sheet over here to protect all this, which was the main purpose of all of this. So we're gonna go ahead and put that in place, and then we will begin the process of putting everything back together. Okay, so I have a shield here. I know it's kind of sloppy. I have more aluminum. I basically cut around this hose completely so it won't ever make contact. It's secured up top. I have the 2 PEX lines right here. They're also not going to make contact. It's rounded right here at the top because I bent it over. On the other side, you might be able to see there's a PEX fitting right back there, and that's the whole purpose of putting this right here. It's just because if that starts leaking, I don't want it to somehow drip on top of this, which it shouldn't, but it's just the extra precautionary piece that I put right there. That really wasn't needed. What was really needed was this. So all the plumbing is behind this shield that I put here. And this shield is attached at the top, and it's also attached at the structure right here. And it just protects all of this in the event that something from here leaks, sprays water out, and would normally get water onto my IC3000, my surge guard, or my automatic transfer switch. Everything has room to breathe. Everything is spaced out well. This is incredibly sturdy, and this doesn't weigh very much at all. So I think we're in good shape. And again, this was just to kind of clean up the inside here a bit, get everything protected from plumbing, and position it in a way that was a little bit easier to access, but primarily get it away from the plumbing stuff. Anyways, I'd love to know what your thoughts are. It definitely cleaned it up a bit. I mean, we eliminated a solid, you know, at least a dozen wires from all of this over here. I put new connectors on, I heat shrunk them and spliced them in place. Put the little protection piece right there. I feel a lot more confident. I feel a lot better. And this right here should never go anywhere. We have this attached very, very well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We're gonna go ahead and get everything put back together, wrap all this up. And yeah, if you're looking for any of these parts, if you're looking for the aluminum, any of this, I got all of this off of Amazon. It was all shipped directly to me, and this is aluminum, so it's not steel. So I have it drilled into aluminum with stainless steel screws, and I shouldn't have to worry about any corrosion there. But that's essentially what we were out here doing today. It took us about 3.5 hours to get all this complete. So it does take a little bit of time if you want to do it right, and make sure you don't bind up any of your wires and nothing is in the wrong position whenever you're done with it. Okay, so here's how it all looks. We have it turned on right now, so now I can see all my lights on my surge guard. Got the IC3000 right here. You can see how it is completely shielded from any plumbing, which is really nice. And the PEX fitting, which is way back there, you might be able to see it right there, is also blocked from dripping onto the IC3000 if I have a leak. You know, it's not that it's going to protect it against a catastrophic leak or if there's some type of huge flood issue, but it should definitely help, and it's going to give me peace of mind, which I think is probably the most important aspect of all this, is just feeling a little bit safer about the equipment being protected, being concealed a little bit. And now I have a cool shelf, so if I add to the system, I have room for it, right? So I have the ability to add something up there. I can add stuff to the bottom, just as long as I keep the space I need around the inverter so it doesn't overheat. Battery, everything's still connected. All the wires right here are zip tied, secured better. I have the Unity box that LCI installed, rotated, so none of the wires have stress on them. They did before, but they don't anymore. And we are in really good shape. Got my power disconnect over here. I gotta tighten that back up. Got my solar disconnect. All right, so the basement is all sealed back up. I have my little gap here so I can access my power disconnect for the batteries. Everything looks really good. Got power going back to the system, maintaining them at about 92%, which is accurate. I am very pleased with this setup, and it is all nice and hidden behind panels now. And we can start reloading all the stuff back into the storage because it is dark outside. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. If you guys haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.